Yellowstone is firmly in the rear view for Kevin Costner, and ahead for him on the horizon is, well, Horizon, an American Saga. Having bet the house on this big undertaking, literally, Costner aims to deliver a 4-part Western epic, beginning with Chapter 1, which released at the end of last month. Chapter 2 is coming to theaters in August, and Chapter 3 is supposedly in production. But with a lukewarm reception and a disappointing box office, Horizon may see an early sunset before we get to Chapter 4. So does Chapter 1 warrant further rides into the world of Horizon? Or should Costner and co. hang up their spurs? Well, with some fairly mixed reviews on the movie, we wanted to toss our 10-gallon hat into the ring as well with a spoiler-free, rapid-fire review. But before we serve up the review portion, let's wet our whistle with a quick overview of the premise for Horizon Chapter 1. Horizon follows 5 major storylines, all anchored to the idea and setting of the westward expansion of American settlers. The first involves the young town of Horizon, which is set upon by a Native American warband, resulting in lots of death. Some of the survivors are aided by an army regiment, while others set out for revenge against the Apache. Meanwhile, the Apache tribe has an internal, generational conflict, as their elders believe in coexisting with the settlers, and the younger members believe in fighting them off and protecting their territory so they don't get pushed out and forced to war with another tribe. Off in Montana, a woman guns down a man and runs away with her young son, leading the matriarch of the man's family to send out her sons to chase down the runaway woman and her kid. The woman ends up rooming with a hooker who eventually entices a horse trader who just arrived in town to spend the night with her. When some men come looking for the kid, however, the horse trader takes the hooker and the child on the run. Lastly, we meet up with a wagon train making its way west. Along the way, they encounter some natives that seem to be tracking them, as well as some internal strife between the settlers. And all the while, everyone seems to be being called to a town called Horizon, where it seems all these storylines are set to coalesce in future chapters. As you can probably tell, there's one glaring problem with Horizon that really hampers this first entry. It's hard to follow and get invested in 5 storylines that are almost entirely disconnected from one another. There's no centralized plot that every story ties back into, and there's really nothing in the way of resolution to any of these storylines in Chapter 1. And at a 3-hour runtime, it makes it all that much easier to get lost. Now, if you go in fully aware of where Horizon is looking to head in future films, as I did, I don't think that this first entry is a bad movie. Keep in mind that this is purely a setup movie meant to introduce us to future films, and you can look past the lack of resolution and connective tissue. But issues would still remain, as that still wouldn't do much to help you better follow everything that's going on. And even if these storylines were all connected and tightly packaged, there are still some subplots that I couldn't care less about, and some weird stuff like romances or crushes between characters that pop up out of nowhere. On the bright side, this movie is gorgeous at times. It features some of the most beautiful vista shots you'll ever see. These kinds of shots and the setting and the costuming, they all do a pretty good job of transporting you to a different place and time, in a particularly brutal and transformative period of time. And as such, there's also some good, brutal action to be found in Chapter 1, even if it feels like it's in service to a weak plot. People seem to think that Horizon may have been better as a TV miniseries if they were going to go with this structure, and it's hard to argue with them. It's a bit jarring to get thrown into all of these disconnected storylines and being asked to care about characters we don't get much time to meet. So Horizon might have benefited from choosing the small screen over the big. That could all change, however, if the stories all start to come together and pay off in a satisfying manner in Chapter 2. And in my opinion, you might be better off waiting to see Chapter 1 closer to when Chapter 2 comes out. I don't think anything about Horizon necessitates seeing it as soon as possible, and if Chapter 2 continues to have the same level of problems, the series might not be worth paying for at all. Overall, I think there's a decent story to be told in Horizon, and the production quality necessary to make it special, but Chapter 1 doesn't deliver on its own. But I think there's just enough there to warrant a second film. We'll just have to see if Chapter 2 can tie it all together. That all being said, Chapter 1 did not have a good box office, and possible financial troubles could destroy Horizon before we even reach town. Did you check out Horizon? If so, do you think it does enough for Chapter 2 to deserve a watch? Why do you think Horizon struggled at the box office? Let us know in the comments below. Also remember to leave a like on the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers to stay tuned for Horizon Chapter 2 coming next month. Thank you for moseying on out with us today, partner, and we'll catch you on the next one.